A single sentence changed everything before either of them had even finished their coffee. The young woman smiled warmly across the small cafe table and quietly remarked that he had kind eyes, the kind that made people feel safe. At that exact moment, the elderly waitress accidentally called the man by a name that appeared in newspapers across the country. The warmth on the woman's face disappeared, replaced by disbelief. She suddenly realized her blind date wasn't an ordinary architect as she had been told. He was the billionaire businessman everyone believed was cold, ruthless, and impossible to love. What neither of them realized was that the biggest secret in the room had nothing to do with his fortune. It was the pain both of them had spent years hiding behind polite smiles. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still exist, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Every bit of support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us love is often found where we least expect it. The spring sunshine poured through the large windows of a quiet cafe overlooking a peaceful riverside park. Families pushed strollers along flower-lined paths, children laughed while chasing pigeons, and musicians played cheerful melodies beneath blooming trees. It was the perfect afternoon for new beginnings, though neither Rowan Mercer nor Celeste Whitmore expected the day to become one. Rowan had agreed to the blind date only after months of persuasion from his older sister. At 41, he had become one of Europe's youngest business leaders after transforming a struggling engineering company into an international success. Public opinion painted him as distant and intimidating because business magazines focused only on boardroom negotiations and billion-dollar contracts. Few people knew he spent weekends anonymously volunteering at children's hospitals or personally funding scholarships for students who had lost their parents. After losing his fiancée in a tragic accident nearly a decade earlier, Rowan quietly built walls around his heart, believing work was safer than love. Celeste, 35, worked as a restoration artist specializing in repairing centuries-old paintings. Her career taught her that even the most damaged masterpieces could become beautiful again with enough patience and care. Years earlier, however, her own engagement ended after discovering the man she trusted had hidden enormous debts and countless lies. Since then, she became cautious about relationships, believing honesty mattered more than charm or wealth. Their mutual friend arranged the meeting while intentionally leaving out Rowan's identity, hoping they would first see each other as ordinary people rather than through headlines or assumptions. The conversation flowed effortlessly from the beginning. They discovered a shared love of old bookstores, quiet museums, and long afternoon walks through botanical gardens. Rowan listened carefully whenever Celeste spoke, never interrupting or trying to impress her. She noticed how warmly he treated every employee inside the cafe, thanking the servers by name and helping an elderly customer carry a heavy shopping bag without hesitation. It was after that simple act of kindness that Celeste looked into his eyes and gently remarked that he had kind eyes, the sort that belonged to someone who genuinely cared about others. Rowan smiled, deeply moved because no one had described him that way in years. Then fate quietly changed everything. The cafe owner, recognizing Rowan, greeted him enthusiastically and thanked him for sponsoring the community youth center renovation completed earlier that year. Several nearby customers immediately recognized his face from newspapers and online articles. Whispers spread through the room. Celeste sat speechless. She hadn't expected her blind date to be one of the country's wealthiest businessmen. Embarrassment quickly replaced surprise. She worried every genuine moment they had shared suddenly looked naive. Rowan immediately understood her discomfort. Instead of explaining his success, he quietly admitted something much more personal. He confessed that wealth had complicated almost every relationship in his adult life. Some people admired him before knowing him. Others distrusted him before giving him a chance. Very few ever treated him like an ordinary man. Celeste remembered the warmth she had felt before learning his identity. Nothing about him had changed. Only the information she carried had. She realized how easily people judged one another through reputation instead of experience. Rather than ending the afternoon awkwardly, they decided to continue walking through the riverside park. As they talked, Rowan shared stories about his late fiancée and how grief had convinced him that opening his heart again would only invite more pain. Celeste listened without judgment before sharing her own experience of betrayal and the fear that honesty had become rare. For the first time in many years, both discovered someone willing to understand their scars instead of trying to erase them. Over the following months, their friendship grew slowly and naturally. There were no extravagant gifts. No luxurious vacations. No dramatic gestures. Instead, Rowan helped Celeste repaint a small art studio she had recently rented. Celeste volunteered beside Rowan during children's art workshops sponsored by his foundation. They spent sunny weekends restoring neglected public gardens, reading beneath old oak trees, and discovering that genuine happiness often lived inside ordinary moments. One afternoon, a newspaper photographer secretly captured Rowan carrying paint cans while laughing with neighborhood volunteers. The picture quickly spread across social media. Many people assumed it was a publicity stunt. Others mocked him, believing successful businessmen only pretended to care. The criticism hurt more than Rowan expected. He considered withdrawing from community projects entirely. Celeste gently reminded him that people who truly change lives rarely receive universal praise. Kindness performed only when everyone approves isn't kindness at all. Her words gave him strength. Months later, Rowan announced that his company would create apprenticeship programs for young adults leaving foster care, offering education, mentorship, and long-term careers instead of temporary charity. Inspired by his decision, Celeste organized free weekend art classes for children whose families couldn't afford creative programs. Together they discovered that love grows strongest when two people encourage one another to become better, not richer. On a bright autumn afternoon, Rowan brought Celeste back to the same cafe where they first met. The elderly waitress who had accidentally revealed his identity welcomed them with joyful tears after seeing how much happier they both looked. Rowan quietly admitted something he had never told anyone. The moment Celeste described his eyes as kind had affected him more deeply than receiving any award or business achievement. For years, the world judged him by headlines, wealth, and influence. She had unknowingly judged him by his character before learning anything else. That single sentence reminded him of the man he always hoped to be. Celeste smiled because she had learned something equally important. Real love isn't about discovering someone is wealthy. It's about discovering they remain gentle when life has given them every reason to become hard. As another spring arrived, Rowan and Celeste opened a community art center together inside a beautifully restored historic building. Children painted colorful murals, retired artists mentored young students, and families gathered beneath bright afternoon sunlight to celebrate creativity, friendship, and hope. The center's entrance displayed a simple message engraved into polished stone: the truest measure of a person is not what the world says about them, but how they make others feel when no one is watching. Visitors often paused to read those words before walking inside. Many left smiling. Some left inspired. Others quietly decided to become a little kinder themselves. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment and tell us, have you ever discovered that your first impression of someone was completely wrong? Your story might encourage someone else to look beyond appearances. As the afternoon sun cast golden light across the riverside park where their journey began, Rowan realized he hadn't missed love because he was too busy building a business. He had simply been waiting for someone who could see his heart before seeing his success. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Together, our community can remind the world that kindness is often the most beautiful first impression of all. Sometimes destiny doesn't arrive with grand speeches or extraordinary miracles. Sometimes it begins with one honest compliment, one pair of kind eyes, and one person brave enough to see the heart before the headlines.